Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today, and welcome to today's Remembrance Day ceremony at Old City Hall, hosted by the City of Toronto. My name is Wreath, and I'm the city's Chief of Protocol. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the Indigenous peoples of these lands. It is important that we reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations and in learning about the rich history of this land to better understand our role as residents, neighbors, partners, and caretakers in this place we each call home. The City of Toronto acknowledges the land we are meeting on as the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabeg, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit. We also acknowledge the Williams Treaties, signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. The City of Toronto acknowledges all treaty peoples, including those who came here as settlers, as migrants either in this generation or in generations past, and those of us who came here involuntarily, particularly those brought to these lands as a result of the transatlantic slave trade and slavery. We pay tribute to our ancestors of African origin and descent. In keeping with this tribute, during this Remembrance Week, the city commemorated the contribution of No. 2 Construction Battalion, Canada's only all-Black battalion. Despite facing discrimination, these brave men took up the call to serve during the First World War more than 100 years ago, and we are joined today by their descendants. Our commemoration is a point of reflection on the past, providing context for the present challenges faced by Black communities and a hopeful future for all people of African descent. First Nations have fought alongside settlers since the War of 1812 and continue to serve in the Canadian Forces, defending our land and people. Joining us today is Kevin Myram from Toronto Council Fire, who carries their Eagle Staff. On the Eagle Staff, each feather represents an act of honor performed by the bearer in times of war, with a spear at the end. When treaties were made between First Nations and settlers, the ends of the staff were bent into a circle, symbolizing peace amongst us. Eagle staffs are still carried today, with the eagle head at the top bent to represent peace. The vigil sentries today are mounted by the 48th Highlanders of Canada, a primary reserve regiment of the Canadian Forces. The sentries are wearing period uniforms, including the First and Second World Wars and modern dress. They are led by Warrant Officer Duff, who wears historic dress from 1891. Should you wish to follow today's program on your own device, you can find it online at toronto.ca/lest we forget. Please rise as you are able and join in the singing of our national anthem, which will be followed by the last post, the silence, the lament, and the rouse. Please remain standing until after the reading of the act of remembrance and the commitment to remember.
Grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
Promesse de se souvenir. Ils étaient jeunes, jeunes comme nous. Ils ont servi, donnant généreusement de même. Nous leur promettons, en dépit du temps qui passe, de porter le flambeau et de ne jamais oublier. Nous nous souviendrons d'eux. Nous nous souviendrons d'eux. And now in English. They were young as we are young. They served, given freely of themselves. To them we pledge, amid the winds of time, to carry their torch and never forget. We will remember them. We will remember them.
Please be seated. I wish to recognize the fly past of Canadian Harbored aircraft, which were used in training Canadian and Commonwealth airmen during the Second World War. 2024 marks the centennial of the Royal Canadian Air Force. I would also like to thank John Dufour for reading the Act of Remembrance and Stephen Mensah, Executive Director, Toronto Youth Cabinet, for reading the Commitment to Remember. I now wish to call upon Her Worship Olivia Chow, Mayor of Toronto, to address the gathering.
Good morning, honored guests, Toronto Chair of School Board, Trustee Nathan Shan, Trustee Dee Williams. I'm humbled to join you on Remembrance Day as we gather in solemn unity at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. Humbled to stand in this moment when we honor the courage and sacrifice of those who place service above self to defend peace and the freedoms we hold dear. For over a century, the people of Toronto have come together at Old City Hall to pay tribute to the brave men and women who served and those who gave their lives in service to Canada. Today, we honor not just their memory, but their families, loved ones, and communities that carry their legacy forward. They too answer the call of service wherever it may take them. Provide support, endure separation from loved ones, and bear the burden of injury and loss. Our city is filled with echoes of those who served across generations. Woven into Canada's history and Toronto landscapes, they are a testament to the bravery, duty, and dedication of our service members. At the many cenotaphs dedicated to those who served in World War II, this year we reflected on the 80th anniversary of D-Day, when Canadian forces joined our allies in courageously storming the beaches of Normandy. We recognize the centennial of the Royal Canadian Air Force, those who served and trained in our city over the past century, many of them on Toronto Island. We also honor the No. 2 Construction Battalion, Canada's only all-black battalion formed during the First World War. Their story, now marked by a commemorative plaque just southwest of here on King Street, is a powerful reminder of the resilience and strength that diversity brings to our armed forces. Despite facing discrimination, these brave men took up the call to serve. This year also marked 10 years since the end of the Canadian mission in Afghanistan. We gathered at the monument at Fort York Armory in March to commemorate the honor the Canadians who gave their lives serving in that conflict. Close to 40,000 Canadian Armed Force personnel were deployed as part of the NATO-led International Security Assistance Forces, Canada's largest deployment since the Second World War. 158 soldiers, including 8 from Toronto, fell in the line of duty. Each of them made their final journey down the highway of heroes into Toronto. As we remember them, let us also remember those who returned, veterans who need our support, along with a place in our collective memory. They went to war, put their lives on line over and over. That means the transition back to civilian life is very challenging for them. Veterans bear physical and mental injuries, high suicide rates, as they are more likely to experience homelessness. To the men and women in uniform standing among us today, we offer our deepest thanks for your commitment. And we pledge to honor our commitment to take care of those who came home. We honor the enduring values of peace, freedom, and unity. Values our soldiers have defended with unwavering courage. Let us together hold tight the memory of those who gave everything. And let us remain steadfast in our pursuit of a peaceful and just future for all, lest we forget.
Thank you to the Ellesmere Eisler Singers, accompanied by the 7th Toronto Regiment, Royal Canadian Artillery Band. This musical version of the famous poem In Flanders Fields, written by John McCrae in 1915, was arranged by Lydia Adams with music by the Central Band of the Canadian Armed Forces. Its depiction of poppies growing between the graves of the fallen soldiers led to the tradition of wearing red poppies in remembrance. We will now present the wreaths. The first wreath today will be led by Her Worship, Mayor Olivia Chow, on behalf of the City of Toronto. Veterans Affairs Canada, Tabitha Stubbs, Chief of Staff to the Deputy Minister of Veterans Affairs. Royal Canadian Navy, Commodore Marta Mulkins, Special Advisor to the Commander of the Royal Canadian Navy, accompanied by Chief Petty Officer, 2nd Class Andrew Payton, Coxswain, HMCS York. (32nd Canadian Brigade Group, Canadian Army, Lieutenant Colonel Chris Canavan, Deputy Brigade Commander, accompanied by Chief Warrant Officer Chris Reeser. Deputy Chief of Staff to the Commander, accompanied by Lieutenant Sheldon Webb, Operations, Canadian Forces College. Royal Canadian Legion, John Dufour, District D Commander. On behalf of the Youth of Toronto, Stephen Mensah, Executive Director, Toronto Youth Cabinet. I would now like to invite representatives of the following organizations to lay wreaths as directed by staff. Toronto School Boards. veterans organizations, and cadet corps. Consular Corps. City divisions, starting with the Toronto Public Service and City of Toronto agencies, boards, and commissions. Labor unions and associations. Community organizations and corporations. wreath today is being laid to mark 10 years since the end of Canada's role in the NATO mission in Afghanistan. Laying the wreath today is Valerie McGrady, the mother of Corporal Matthew McCulley, who was born in Toronto. Matthew tragically lost his life at age 25 when he stepped on an improvised explosive device while on foot patrol near the village of Nalgam, Afghanistan. She is joined by Sergeant Daryl Jansen, retired, and Corporal Kirk Jansen of the Irish Regiment of Canada, who also served in Afghanistan and were friends of Matthew. Other family members are also here with us today. Today we remember those who lost their lives and the thousands of other Canadians who were injured or returned home with invisible trauma as a result of serving in the Afghanistan missions. We also pay tribute to the loved ones of those soldiers whose sacrifice we will never forget. I now invite Reverend Dr. John Joseph Mastandrea, Chaplain, Toronto Police Services, to give the benediction, which will be followed by the singing of the Royal Anthem.
Good day. If it is your practice or inclination to pray, please join me. Today we stand to hold the crimson fire. The light of the poppy is worn outside and inside. Outside is a sign to take a stand, inside as a time to remember. There was a time when I was just a lad, and Remembrance Day was recalling World War I and World War II and remembering the great sacrifice on many aboard and here at home. The day has grown deep as we have planted seeds of today. I call as friends women and men who have served and completed tours of duty in faraway places, some who do not return home, and others who return home as our heroes. I have celebrated their weddings and baptized their children and shared bread at their tables. We are in a new era where past, present, and future stand together. We hold the crimson fire. We lift up our eyes to the mountains, and where does our help come from? Our help comes from the Holy, the Maker of heaven and earth, who will not let your foot slip, who watches over you and will not slumber. The one who watches over our lives, the Holy One will watch over our coming and going, both now and evermore. We hold the crimson fire, and God will raise you up on eagle's wings and bear you on the breath of dawn and make you to shine like the sun and hold you in the palm of the hand. Run and not be weary, walk and not be faint. We hold the crimson fire. And may the road rise up to meet you, and may the wind be always at your back, and may the sun shine warm upon your face, and the rain fall softly upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of the hand. We are the crimson fire, the beacon for freedom, and sunrise for peace. Shalom, salam, and namaste. Let us stand boldly together as we remember, yesterday, today, and always. Amen.
Parade! Attention! Carry colors!
Please be seated. Thank you so much for attending our ceremony today. The choral music was performed by the Elmer Eisler Singers under the direction of Lydia Adams. The band of the 7th Toronto Regiment, Royal Canadian Artillery, is under the direction of Lieutenant Karina Lamb, Director of Music. For more information about Toronto's role in the Afghan mission and stories of other Toronto soldiers, please visit our website at toronto.ca/remembrance. We would also like to thank Metrolinx for their continued partnership of the city's Remembrance Day ceremony, including the special exhibit on the fencing behind you. We invite you to view this exhibit, which recounts significant military and peacekeeping milestones that are intertwined with Toronto's past, present, and future. The parade will now march off with the mayor and senior military officers taking the salute. Members of the public are welcome to place their poppies on the cenotaph after the vigil sentries have departed. Thank you for attending today, lest we forget.